finally call the meeting to order on this day, Monday, February 24th, 2014. Clerk Hradecki, if you could please call the roll.
Trustee Davis.
Here.
Trustee Ayello.
Here.
Trustee Bullfuss.
Here.
Trustee Taglia.
Here.
Trustee Case. Trustee Wagner.
Here.
President Bullwinkle.
Here. You can all please rise for the pledge. Mike Rolowski, would you like to lead us in a pledge?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could please remain standing. Trustee Taglia, will you please lead us in a prayer?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Our Heavenly Father, will thou be pleased to grant that this meeting, thus begun in order, be conducted in peace and closed in harmony. Amen.
Amen. Item number 3 on the Committee of the Whole agenda is amendments of the agenda. This time, any board members have any amendments you'd like to make to the Committee of the Whole agenda? No? Okay. Take that as a no. So we're going to move on to item number 4, the 2013 fire hydrant adoption winners. We have first, second, and third place winners coming up, and with that, speaking of coming up, we have our fire chief, Chief Ron Rakosnick, approaching the podium, and we'll let him take this over.
Okay, thank you very much for letting me take this over. First of all, I just want to thank the 2013 participants who participated in the Adopt a Hydrant. To date, we have over 330 hydrants that have been adopted, and over $10,000 have been received. So that money has gone for a new electronic sign at Station 3, and if you haven't seen it, it looks beautiful. So somebody asked me today, so now what do we do with the money that we received? That money will go towards new equipment for the fire department. Right, Manager?
That's correct.
In 2014, we'll start the, in spring of 2014, we'll start the new Adopt a Hydrant contest. Mary Hornback, the fire department secretary, she will be responsible, wherever she's at, for taking phone calls and getting everything set up. So I know she'll do a great job. Before I get to the winners, I just want to thank the residents who helped us dig out the snow and the hydrants. It's been a horrific winter, we all know that, but the snow has been very difficult for our guys to deal with. So thanks to the residents that helped us dig out the hydrants. All right, with that, I'll move on to the third place winner. And they are here tonight. Come on up. We have Pam Schroeder. Pam Schroeder painted a hydrant at, let me make sure I got this right, 643 South Villa, and it's lunch with the, and it is the Army Girl. And I look at the picture here, it's a beautiful picture of an Army girl painted on a hydrant. You did a fantastic job. So with that, we're going to give you lunch with the firefighters. Any day you want, up to 6 people. So,
oh, great.
So make a phone call to Mary, and she'll set that up. So thank you very much.
Chief, if you have a photo of each hydrant, we
Yep.
might be able to capture it
I
on.
don't have it with me.
Nope, okay. I say we could maybe capture it, but we'll make sure we put them on the website.
We'll put 'em on the website.
We'll get them
Yeah,
out there.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
Second place hydrant was Lindsay Benedetto. She was unable to be here tonight. But that hydrant is at 400 East Reardon, and it is a Despicable Me. That's what was painted on the hydrant. She did a very nice job. We have a $50 gift card from Outback Steakhouse that donated the $50, so we will make sure she gets the $50 gift card from Outback Steakhouse. Thank you. All right, our first place winner, come on up, is Lisa Norlag. And this hydrant is Be Wise, and it is at 1121 South Villa. And it is a fantastic job, very, very nice. And the picture shows a nice summer day, which was nice to see the green grass with the hydrant. So, and she will get a $100 gift card to Walmart from the fire department. So thank you very much. And with that, thank you very much.
Chief, can we make that last prize subject to her daughter coming up with her next time?
We can do that. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, and doesn't show up on the camera, but we have a room full of firefighters here with us tonight, so thank you for the great showing of support for the program and for the winners, and yeah, I'd like to give you guys a round of applause. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. With that, we're going to move on to item number 5 on the Committee of the Whole agenda. Consider an ordinance providing for a feasibility study and report with respect to the designation of a certain area as a tax increment financing redevelopment project area. This is around the North Ardmore area. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. And folks in the audience and at home and board, this is quite a description, so I'll take my time here. The legislative purpose of the TIF Act is to encourage development through the use of incremental tax revenues derived from an increase in assessed values in the eligible areas.
Got a call.
And assessed values in the eligible areas by assisting.
There they go. It's a call. Okay.
Sorry, folks at home, we've had a emergency call and the fireman had to leave. The legislative purpose of the TIF Act is to encourage development through the use of incremental tax revenues derived from an increase in assessed values in the eligible areas by assisting with development or redevelopment project costs, thereby eliminating adverse and detrimental conditions that erode the tax base both within an eligible area and adjacent to such areas. The corporate authorities desire to conduct a feasibility study of certain properties within the corporate boundaries of the village in order to determine the eligibility of said properties as a redevelopment project area pursuant to the provisions of the TIF Act, which properties are generally within an area bounded on the north by East Vermont Street, on the east by North Douglas Avenue, on the south by West Terrace Street, and on the west by North Harvard Avenue. The area, as shown on our map, and I apologize, folks at home, I don't really have a map that I can hold up for you, but it's shown on our attached maps with our material and made a part of tonight's agenda as reference as A. The corporate authorities have determined that Ehlers and Associates possess the necessary skills and experience. Do you have yours? I have mine.
That's fine. This one doesn't show.
What I'm going to do, folks at home, I'm going to kind of hold this up. And
Not upside down.
can you zoom in, Patrick, from the back room there?
Just want to make sure it's not upside down there. Yeah, it's
Is
good.
it up? Is it okay?
No, yeah, it's good. Yep, it's good.
Okay.
Okay. We're zooming in. Yeah.
Oh,
Whoops. There you go. Stay put, right there.
okay, I've got it.
It's a steady hand, Rich.
Okay, folks at home, this is a colored map. You can kind of see the purple by my fingers. And I guess it's north of the purple line. There is the hatched area. That's the proposed development area called the North Avenue, or North Ardmore area, the proposed tax increment financing district. So the corporate authorities have determined that Ehlers and Associates possess the necessary skills and experience to determine if the area qualifies as a redevelopment project area under the TIF Act and to prepare a redevelopment plan, and desires to authorize Ehlers and Associates to undertake a feasibility study and to prepare such reports as required with respect to the eligibility of the area as a tax increment financing redevelopment project area. And Your Honor, I believe as we proceed this evening, this is just to conduct, the authority is to conduct a feasibility study of that certain area. And if I'm not mistaken, Your Honor and Board, I believe that Rick Goldman, the developer of the Garden Station area, is going to reimburse the village for the cost of this particular feasibility study. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the cost of this feasibility study is $26,000.
Yes.
And Mr. Goldman is going to reimburse the village of Villa Park for that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you want staff to say anything else before we throw it to the public? Because I know there are some questions from the public, so.
Yes, how about if we introduce Director Fiola to introduce or give us a little bit of background and then introduce our developer, Rick Goldman.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Jan Fiola. I'm the new Economic Development Director here in Villa Park. And we have with us this evening Rick Goldman, who is the developer with Golden Spike Development. Earlier this evening, we had a pre-recorded introduction of the update of the Garden Station development, and with that, we have the proposal on the board tonight to do the feasibility study to help spearhead the development of Garden Station, as the developer has been very patient with the economy, with the community, and looking for the opportunity, the right opportunity to do the development. So with the support of the public-private partnership, that we can propose a TIF district in this area and help support the development. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rick Goldman with Golden Spike Development.
Yes.
Thanks, Jan.
Hello.
Do I have to?
Yep. You just state your name for the record, even though we've stated it, and maybe give a quick review of.
I'm Rick Goldman with Golden Spike Development. I have a little cold tonight, pardon me, but you guys recognize my voice. It's still me. I haven't aged, even though we've been with this project for a long time, and I remain ageless. You know, I said that to my son who's going to college this year. I said, how did this happen? I'm not aging, and you're going out the door. But
Since about 2007, but who's
I hope everybody had a chance earlier this evening to look at the boards. We also put them on the film for the community to see as well that we've developed. So we come today, as we do periodically and have through this thing, continually moving forward, albeit not maybe to the velocity or speed that everybody collectively in this room or consensus-wise maybe would have liked. Certainly we have overcome many hurdles that are not Villa Park issues and certainly aren't Golden Spike development issues. So as we stand here today, it's important to realize all that has been accomplished, not all that hasn't been accomplished. So we have secured all of the land, assembled the pieces. We have maintained all the land thanks to operating income and some very good financial planning by my partner and I. So while 2008 to 2013, the development world was basically shut down of everything. So I hope everybody in the community can consider this when they're thinking about how we got to where we are. What happened for those 5 years was a depression in our industry, not a recession, it was a depression, and it just basically shut down. So there was 5 years in which nothing could have happened, and it was actually fortuitous for all of us that we didn't start, because we would have been in a much worse position in some of the concerns that happened. So we can all touch a little wood and say that, yes, we were delayed for 5 years of the development world being put on hold, but it is not on hold now. So in 2013 and the development world, we for the first time started to see the lending community and traditional financing coming back into the area. So we did some things that were very smart by allowing us to get the project. If you recall, the last time I was here, we were making sure that it was the option to do either luxury apartments or condominiums was acceptable. That took some time. Now we realize that that was a very smart move, because that is what the market and all the market studies still bear, that high-end luxury rentals are what DuPage County needs and will continue to need for many, many years. So some of our concerns about the empty building or the what if the project doesn't go, I think that was very wise. Waiting was wise. So now we're poised and ready to go, and we came with yet another hurdle that I don't think any of us saw coming on either side of the dais. And that was Elmhurst's TIF district to get the Hahn Street project accelerated. And that was one that I think definitely took us by surprise. We were ready for a lot of different things, but we kind of felt that we would have an advantage in the redevelopment and not be a more aggressive position taken from the city of Elmhurst, because we've worked together very well to get ourselves to this, and we're healthy, and we're not in a position where we have massive baggage or issues. We just waited for all the right things, and then boom, all of a sudden Elmhurst comes on and says, well, we've already TIF'd on the Hahn Street development site, which I know you guys are all aware of and watching closely as well. And that has put a level of pressure on us that now requires the public-private partnership that ultimately, if done correctly, everybody does benefit from, in a way that our efforts and our risk in terms of being the first step in creating Villa Park's new downtown and being the catalyst. This is a program, as the manager said, that has been very successfully done in many different communities, so we're not treading new ground here about whether these work or how these work for doing something. So this is the first step tonight in terms of securing that. And that timeline, which I know is the next question, is what I've been told is it's approximately a 4 to 6 month timeline on the village's side to secure this and make this official, for lack of a better term. So assuming that does happen, and there are certain milestones, that what I've been told is that we will know very early on about the viability so that we can begin to start doing certain things simultaneously with this, and that we will be going through a process through the state and the county and the local levels, but we will be drawing and building and doing something on the other side. What it's looking like it's doing in 4 months is unfortunately going to push us right into winter in Chicago. So I think for everyone's perspective, realistically, it would probably be a March 1st, 2015 shovel in the ground. If things were to move faster, maybe some of the demolition could begin faster. We've worked very hard to kind of give ourselves as much flexibility with the current leases. That was difficult to do too. That's another positive, by the way, I should have mentioned that earlier, is that while we kept ourselves going, we also, I know people are concerned about the 415 site because it's kind of empty, but you can't sign a quality tenant and tell them in 6 months you might be gone. You know what I mean? And we're going to tear the building down. So we've done a very nice job of kind of emptying out the buildings and keeping something with all of the residential people on the Beverly side. In this last cycle with the county, we were able to get riders for 60-day clauses in and doing something. So we've stayed as nimble as we can and kind of ready to go, that we can get everybody out and begin to tear down the buildings. So I just think whether, assuming that this all goes as we plan, and this is what we need to push us over the finish line, to get us the financing in place that is necessary to do it all in one lump sum. Because if everyone remembers, when we decided to go to the lower building and the luxury apartments, the building got lower, but it became one phase as opposed to a 5-phase or 4-phase project in which way you looked at it. So now everything will be built at one time. So there's more of an initial capital outlay, but it's a shorter construction window, certain economies that go, but it's generally, I mean, it's a great plan all in all. So all of the pieces are kind of moving in the very right direction, and we haven't had the curveball other than really the aggressive move on Elmhurst spot and the interest going there that is vying with us. So we are competing right now really head to head with somebody that's 1.5 miles from our site, basically, with a community that has an infrastructure already advantageous in certain regards, and now giving very aggressive incentives to get another project going up. So time is really important for us to try to collectively not lose our position in terms of where our plans are and what we are, to hopefully get this last piece together so we can be first to market and kind of beat them to the punch.
Okay. All right. With that, then we will give it to the public and see if anybody from the public has any questions or comments in regards to this agenda item. So with that, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to to speak or ask questions before we volley it back up here on the board level? Anybody? Any questions? Okay. Then with that, any questions and comments from the board in regards to this item? Trustee Aiello.
Just want to make sure, in spite of my last vote on this particular topic, we've talked in our strategic planning about that whole area, so I think this approving a plan or a contract to get a study done to determine whether we should do this TIF or not, it's a good idea, just because we need that area redeveloped generally to begin with. Whether it's this particular development or not, there's other developments we'd like to see come there. So I don't think this, approving that study is necessarily tied to just this project. That's all.
Okay. Manager, want to respond to that at all, or no?
No.
Okay, wasn't sure.
I'm
Okay.
just looking for some
Okay,
questions.
all right, great. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. Is anyone here from Eilers tonight?
No.
No, okay.
I don't think so.
I just want to, I obviously looked over all the material, but in terms of what they're going to do for us, will they tell us, will they give us a projected number of what the TIF will take in or raise on an annual basis? Or is that under the additional services?
Manager Keener.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What the study will do is basically it'll tell us if the proposed redevelopment area qualifies under the TIF Act to become a tax increment financing district. And if it does, then we'll come back to the board to approve it as a TIF. And part of the approval process will be a redevelopment agreement between the Village of Villa Park and Rick Goldman, Golden Spike. And inside the development agreement will be the map of the area, the description of what will be constructed, probably a timeline of thresholds to meet. There'll probably be an Exhibit A for projected cost for the developer to be reimbursed, provided that he meets the other threshold of construction. So I believe, it's my opinion that it'll be contained within the redevelopment agreement as an exhibit. But it'll be touched upon within the feasibility study, I think, lightly. Am I correct, Attorney Benninger?
Right. The feasibility study will have as part of the plan for the entire area an estimate of increased EAV, which then can be used to determine, the increase increment that'll be obtained from this property, from all the properties, not just from the property that we're talking about, but from all the properties within there. So that will be part of the plan. You will get an estimate.
In Eilers' proposal, it references the Joint Review Board. Is the Joint Review Board the board that's formed to kind of govern the TIF, and it's made up of community members? Am I correct? No?
No, the Joint Review Board is really other taxing districts, your major
Okay.
taxing districts, who will have a chance to review the plan prior to it coming to the board for consideration.
So the school district, the library, et cetera, will be on that Joint Review Board?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Anybody else from the board? Oh, Trustee Tagley.
Is the boundaries of the TIF district, does that include the Jefferson Pool area? Does it go that far to the west?
Yes.
Okay, so
Sorry.
with the pool being a part of the TIF district, would it be qualified to receive TIF funds for improvements?
Yes.
Is that,
Thank you, Your Honor. There was certain areas that were included within the proposed redevelopment project area. The metro station was included, the parking lots of the metro station, obviously the construction area itself, and then west towards the pool. The pool is also included along with some residential units. Point being that if, and I know that the construction will take place hopefully and have many residents, and possibly some of those residents would use our pool, and possibly through the development we could use some of those TIF funds to repair the pool or maintain the pool. Thank you.
thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Anybody else from the board? Okay. Okay. Manager Keener has couple more things to say.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Goldman and I have met many times, and as you mentioned, Your Honor, this project's been attempting to occur for many, many years. During one meeting, Mr. Goldman and I were talking, and I said, we've helped many businesses within Villa Park with sales tax incentive agreements or redevelopment agreements. However, Mr. Goldman, we have done really nothing to help you. Mr. Goldman actually purchased a property, and correct me if I misspeak, but I'm sure it's close to $5 million. And as part of the development, moving forward, if the TIF were to be approved, Mr. Goldman has lost his opportunity to be reimbursed for that property because he bought the property first. This is a great development, but he will not be reimbursed, so we'll be doing reimbursement if it's approved for other development on the site. But as I mentioned, we've helped many businesses here in Villa Park with a redevelopment agreement to make other developments occur that were stalled. We've also did sales tax rebate incentive agreements to make other developments that were stalled or they had a financing gap take place. Certainly this has been on the books since 2000, 2008, and now it's 2014. And if this is approved in the future, Mr. Goldman mentioned it'd be sometime in March 2015 before the shovel would break the ground. So, as a village manager, I certainly want this project to occur sooner than later. And thank you, Mr. Goldman. Thank you, guys.
Anybody else from the board? Last minute before we move on? Okay. So I want to say thank you to the developer as well, and it does seem like we have had a long-term relationship with you since the beginning. I remember being a resident, participating in some of the public meetings that were held where we had breakout groups and where we talked about what we wanted this to look like. And my recollection is back to maybe 2007, perhaps it was 2008. The dates kind of are blurry at this point because it's been so long, but I remember just as a resident coming up and participating in this, and to be sitting up here now talking about this feasibility study. We'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens. We'll be a little bit more patient and then take it from there once we finish this next part of the process. So I appreciate your partnership. So with that, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Item number 6 on the Committee of the Whole agenda. Consider a resolution adopting the 2014 Municipal Legislative Priorities, the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. The DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference develops its annual legislative action program with the goal of establishing a comprehensive platform on legislative issues in order to protect and benefit the interest of its member municipalities, residents, and businesses in these municipalities and the region generally. And I believe, Your Honor, with the packets, there were photocopies of the brochure that the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference has provided.
Yes.
Now I can't find mine.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh.
It's right here. It
But
is in the packet.
there are several different priorities. And it looks like this, folks at home, if you can, Patrick, if you can pull in a little bit. They hand out these brochures every year, and what the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference is asking us to do is to support the legislative priorities that they have assembled and supported by adopting a resolution of support. So basically, when the DuPage Mayors and Managers lobby and we go to Springfield and we talk to the representatives and senators, they may say, well, does your board or does your village or city support these priorities? And whoever happens to be lobbying can pull out a binder and show resolutions of support for the priorities. And there's quite a few priorities, and Your Honor, may I just read a couple?
Sure.
Okay. So they put these together, and one priority, folks, is revenue and taxation, and one of them is to reform municipal public safety pensions. And it offers a few bullet points. Another important one is to remove the sunset date on the Wireless Emergency Telephone Safety Act. And folks, sometimes I'll mention that we have a legislative update come through, and that's a particular one that I watch a lot, is the Wireless Emergency Telephone Safety Act, and that's a charge for the 911 service. Another one is be implement streamlined sales tax. Another one would be require direct deposit of local government distributive funds. And folks, what that one is when the state collects funds, they sometimes hold on to them for months at a time. And it sure would be nice if they just direct deposit those in our accounts. And I must say, if anyone's watching from the state, that the state of Illinois has actually improved in their payments, because last year, about maybe 12 months ago, they were behind anywhere from 6 to 7 months in income tax, sales tax. And right now, on the average, it's about 3 months. So I certainly appreciate that, but it'd be quicker if it was direct deposit. And
Still 3 months.
And so there's many other interesting ones. There's personnel and labor, western access to the O'Hare Airport, municipal authority. And one of the items in the municipal authority is remove barriers to non-home rule authority. And with that, folks, I always make this comparison. Is there really any difference between a resident that lives in a non-home rule community and a resident that lives in a home rule community? We both have the same problems, but sometimes in a non-home rule community, our hands are tied for doing certain things, especially for crime-free housing, rather than home rule. And we face the same problems. We never have enough money. We have the crime-free programs for home rule, where they are allowed to do things differently than non-home rule. And quite honestly, our citizens expect the same services. And that's a legislative effort, folks at home, that we should be really kind of watching carefully. So thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. With that, any questions and comments from the public in regards to this issue? Okay, questions and comments from the board. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. I know that DuPage Mayors and Managers is a great organization. They're advocates for municipalities in DuPage. But the thing about this is, and the manager mentioned some of the good points, but there are some items in this legislative agenda that might be, that some of our residents might see as not beneficial, or organizations that they're members of might see as not beneficial. One that kind of stands out to me: limit the Prevailing Wage Act, protect small businesses, and reduce local project costs for taxpayers by amending the Prevailing Wage Act to exempt projects below a minimum cost threshold of $250,000. I think this is a good effort. I remember that they were very strong in objecting to unfunded mandates from the state, and I can agree with that. But just some of these things, I don't know the discussion that took place and why and some of these just, I have questions about, so I think I'm going to vote abstain on this, Madam President.
Anybody else from the board? Trustee Bolfus.
I agree with what the manager said about the removing some of the barriers to non-home rule communities. I was glad to see in the thing again that one of the items was the crime-free housing. I don't understand the barriers that they put up for non-home rule communities. It sort of makes us in Villa Park like we're second-class citizens. We're not as good as communities that are home rule. We're not able to handle our own affairs properly. So I've always had trouble with that, and I'm glad they're going to try that again. Won't be the first time, so try it again. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Trustee Ayala.
I'm not real big on home rule, so I'm going to vote no. But I want to my perception of my perception of why home rule has a threshold of 25,000 people is because the legislature's afraid of the fact that, or the potential in smaller towns for a smaller group of people to potentially control the town, whereas in larger towns, you have a larger swath of people that get involved just by the numbers that are available. So I think that was the original point of why some places should be home rule, why some places shouldn't be home rule. And I don't know that 25,000 are really, who picked that number that made that decision right or wrong. I don't know that it's right or wrong, but since I tend to be not real pro home rule, I'm going to vote against it. Thanks.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Well, just couple quick things. Number one, this isn't necessarily advocating for home rule versus non-home rule. As a non-home rule community, we've managed to figure out some ways to get some things done without being a home rule community. And home rule issue is a big issue and maybe a discussion later on, I don't know. But, we are finding ways to get things done without being a home rule community. Oftentimes we talk about Lombard, our neighbor to the west. They're non-home rule and they're making things happen too. So we certainly, I think, can make arguments for the fact that communities can still get things accomplished without home rule. In this case, just from the crime-free program perspective, this is something that we've talked about for a long time. We have something on our books now, and it does have some teeth. It's been on the books, over a year, about a year and a half now. I'm looking at our police chief who's standing in the corner back there. So, and it's given us some tools that we didn't necessarily have before, and we managed to get that done without being home rule. So with that, that's just a little bit of clarity and clarification on that. And I'd actually also had a conversation with the manager about some of the things that were outlined in this brochure, and I don't agree with everything in there either. But as a whole, as a package deal, it's probably a good thing to move forward with, but doesn't necessarily mean we have to agree with everything that's outlined in this particular brochure in terms of priority. So there's some things I like, some things I don't like. But for that, anybody else? Okay, roll call vote.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Abstain.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Ayello?
No.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Okay. Item number 7 on the Committee of the Whole agenda. Consider approving an inducement resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, to induce the redevelopment of certain property within a tax increment financing redevelopment project area, the Garden Station project. Manager Keener?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is to consider inducement resolution to permit the developer of the Garden Station development to to bank development costs should the village board allow him to proceed. And folks, I kind of mentioned earlier that the developer, Mr. Goldman, has already purchased the property and how he has outlaid that cash. And going further down the road towards development, it's an important part of the development to induce it to take place, but also for the developer to have the ability to be reimbursed but for the tip. So the inducement resolution not only protects the village but also protects the developer, because if the inducement resolution is approved, then the developer going from the point of approval forward can have those funds be reimbursed, whereas I mentioned before that the land purchase would not be reimbursed. And so after the inducement resolution hopefully is approved, then going forward, Mr. Goldman has established that the cost would be, he'd seek reimbursement. So thank you, Your Honor.
Sure. And before we get to public questions, the property, can you just talk about just the boundaries in which the developer's already purchased? There's a chunk of land that he already owns. So we've talked about the property, but we haven't defined those boundaries. So.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. It is a good-sized chunk of property east of Ardmore, and what I'd like to do is just have Director Fiola mention the boundaries as we did in the map. If you want to come to the podium and just kind of mention the streets.
Wow.
Plus she likes being on camera.
Yeah. And also the specific boundaries that the developer owns right now, that he's purchased, that's going to be developed as part of the Garden Station area.
Thank you, Madam President. Rick Goldman with Golden Spike Development presently owns property surrounded by Ardmore on the west, Vermont Street on the north, Beverly on the east, down to the tracks, which is near West Terrace Street on the south, except for one multi-story building at 400 North Beverly Avenue. The developer has so graciously providing a map here of the outline of the proposed development. So that outlines the existing property that has under control Vermont, North Ardmore, the tracks to Beverly. Aside from this parcel on North Beverly.
Right.
Does that help clarify?
Yes. Yes. And looks like our developer is is bringing in all of our boards here, so this is good.
Maybe.
Yeah. Need another hand there? And I know we already did an interview with Rick Goldman before the board meeting, and we did a lot of, close-up shots of these boards as well, but we've got our mission control in the back, getting a nice view of this. We've got one more board that I think Rick has gone to retrieve, so. So with that then, while Rick is, he's bringing the last board that shows another perspective of the development. And one of the, I'd say, major changes of this particular development is we've basically cut 4 stories off of this development. It was going to be much higher, and I know some residents had some concerns about that. So that is one thing that is a noticeable change to this particular development. It's not as tall at this point. And will also be a LEED certified building, which is an all green structure. Not sure what level, but this will allow the developer to build LEED certified. With that, does anybody from the public have any questions and comments? Okay. If you want to state your name for the record.
Hi, Diane
And
Blair
sign in.
Sherlock.
Yes, and sign in. Okay.
If you heard me. Okay, Diane Blair Sherlock. I live on Summit in Villa Park.
And if you can, try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, if you can.
Yes, I will try. I talk pretty fast. Anyhow, so today I actually read the resolution that the board is going to vote on. And while I absolutely believe that this area is going to be approved for a TIF, I have grave concerns about the language in the resolution. I think that resolution is too ambiguous. I think it's too open-ended. I think it's essentially a blank check to the developer to incur costs and then come to the village with their hand out later. There's no type of restriction or limitation other than those costs that can be covered by the TIF Act, which are pretty extensive costs. I am an attorney. I'm familiar with the TIF Act. I'm also familiar with documents. And that document is extremely ambiguous and way too open-ended. And I'm actually surprised that the board didn't have this approved as a TIF quite some time ago, okay? I see no reason to not get the TIF done, get the TIF approved, and do the development agreement like you do with everybody else, okay? And just a couple more real quick comments. And you can read the text yourself. It's online, folks. The packets are online. That's how I got to read the resolution. And I really do have huge issues with the way this resolution is written. There's other ways to do it where it's restricted and it's limited. I'm not sure how, having read the resolution, that resolution protects the village at all. There's no language in that I view as protecting the village. Also, I beg to disagree that we've done nothing to help Mr. Goldman, because just as we had done with Ovaltine, we've approved going from condos to apartments, and that's a major shift in what was originally approved. The tax base for condos is much greater than the tax base for an apartment building. So I think that there was a huge concession when the board agreed to go from condos to apartments. I think that it's something that could be really good for the community, but I think that this resolution is putting the cart before the horse, and that now is not the time to vote on it. You guys are supposed to be the caretakers of our tax dollars, and to have something this open-ended, I really, really have issue with. Okay, and I think that's less than 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Yes, okay, thank you, Diane. Would the attorney or Manager Keener like to respond to that?
Sure. Yeah, I can respond. First of all, this is the first step. Don't confuse this with the redevelopment agreement. The redevelopment agreement is going to come later. That has all the conditions as to what the developer's going to do, what expenses are going to be considered redevelopment expenses, and what the village is going to reimburse the developer for, and how we're going to reimburse them, setting up the TIF fund here in the village. This is nothing more than really just a timing issue with this resolution. TIF is very time sensitive. As the Manager Keener has already mentioned, anything before approval of the redevelopment agreement really will not be TIF eligible, and that's why the purchase of the property is not TIF eligible, even though it would have been had we, I agree with you, like most projects, gone a little earlier with the TIF redevelopment agreement. All this says is that from now until we get a redevelopment agreement, and we may never get a redevelopment agreement, or we might, those expenses which are TIF eligible can be considered as part of the redevelopment agreement for reimbursement. That's all this says. It doesn't say what those TIF expenses are going to be. That'll be said later in the redevelopment agreement. It doesn't say how much that's going to be. That'll also be said later in the redevelopment agreement. It doesn't set forth all the details which we do in the redevelopment agreement. This is really just a timing issue. This allows the developer to proceed now. We do our feasibility study. We come back to the board and decide whether or not we are going to have a planning project and a TIF development, or TIF project in this area. And at that time, after that's approved, we can come back with a redevelopment agreement. This is nothing more than just saying that those items which may be eligible for reimbursement will be eligible for reimbursement, even though it occurs prior to the development of the redevelopment agreement. So it's really more of a timing issue. All those details, and I agree that all those details will be included, they'll be included in the redevelopment agreement, not as part of this. This doesn't commit the village to anything. We don't have to pay them any money. All it does, though, is make those expenses which are eligible, because they're going to occur now before the redevelopment agreement. So that's kind of where we're at that situation.
Sure, yeah, we're still in the public.
But that's not what it says. If that's what it said, I'd be okay with that. It doesn't say that this just means that those items would be eligible. It says that they are eligible if the TIF is approved.
No, it's not what it says. I wrote it.
I don't have a copy of it. I gave my copy up, but that's what I believe it says.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I don't see anything in there that protects the village from the developer saying, I relied on this. It said that my items that are reimbursable under the TIF Act are going to be reimbursed by the village because the TIF's been approved.
No.
And I don't see it the way you see it. I don't see a restriction there.
We do these with all our TIF projects. Usually we do them much earlier in the project, but it is conditioned on a redevelopment agreement. So anything that's in here really does not give the developer any rights, other than he can come back to the board and say, I do have TIF eligible expenses. The board doesn't have to pay for those expenses, doesn't have to reimburse those expenses. This is just solving the timing issue. That's all it really does.
Well, I suppose it would be pretty simple to insert that in the resolution.
It says that, I think.
And we might have a clarification here. Manager Keener.
Well, thank you, Aaron. And folks at home, I'm going to read this particular section. On page 2 of the resolution for the inducement, under section 2, it says that the village board may consider expenditures that are redevelopment project cost, as such term is defined in the TIF Act, in connection with the development of the subject property incurred prior to the approval and execution of a redevelopment agreement with the developer or a successor or signee of the developer, to be expenditures that are eligible for reimbursement through the TIF Act in accordance with the redevelopment project and plan to be approved for the project area, provided that such costs constitute redevelopment project costs as defined by the TIF Act. And that the development of the subject property is consistent with the redevelopment project and plan for the overall project area. So again,
Section 3, if you want to read section 3 as well.
Certainly, Your Honor.
It continues and it's,
so folks at home, I'm going into section 3 now.
It's a little
That
bit-
all undertakings of the village set forth in this resolution are specifically contingent upon the village approving the subject property as eligible for inclusion in the project area and adopting the TIF Act as applicable hereto, and thereafter approving the execution of a redevelopment agreement with the developer or successor or signee of the developer, which provides for the development of the subject property in accordance with an approved redevelopment project and plan. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other questions from the public about this before we toss it up to the board level? Okay. Questions and comments from the board? Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. When I read the section that the manager just read, I kind of scratched my head and I said, why do we need this agreement? Because it really doesn't obligate us to do anything. It just says we may consider. So is this just a kind of an indication of our willingness to be, to help the developer? Is it just like a good faith measure? Is that, am I understanding it correctly?
No, it really goes, probably beyond that. It's more than good faith. What it says is, because remember, that's a timing question. Those expenses which he incurs from now until we get the redevelopment agreement will be eligible. If we don't have this, they're not eligible. So that's really all it is. It's really just a timing problem. Many developments occur much quicker, and you go quickly to a redevelopment agreement, and everything can be put in the redevelopment agreement. This is going to take a while because we still have to get the feasibility study, we got to do the plan, we got to do a joint review board, we got to come back to the board to have the plan and project approved. Then you can consider a redevelopment agreement. So we're out a few months away from, a point in time where the developer's expenditures could be considered as reimbursable. It's a timing issue. But it's more than good faith. It basically says those eligible expenses can be considered.
Okay.
You good? You good?
Yep,
Trustee
thank
Wagner,
you.
you're good? Okay. Trustee Aiello.
Have at least 4 things.
Sure. Ask away.
Section 2, if you think that's clear, it's 113 words long. So, I very much appreciate that. That's what we do to people.
I was just gonna say that, actually.
And
Attorneys move right along.
And that's why we're needed,
Yeah.
because we don't keep it newspaper-length sentences. So, it could certainly be simplified. Probably not overly much more simplified, but I'm sure we could cut that in a couple sentences. That might help. One of the things I'd like to know is what cannot be done now by the developer that will be able to be done by the developer now because of this passing? Is there something you can do other than his costs being reimbursable from now on, which I appreciate and I don't have any huge problem with, but nothing's going on right now anyway, other than waiting for us to get this done, and my perception anyway is marketing this to the investment community, and which I'm sure has some costs associated with it. Would those type of costs be reimbursable under the TIF?
Some marketing costs are reimbursable. You have to be very specific about it.
Would marketing the project to financial institutions that are going to finance it be reimbursable?
Yeah, marketing costs are one of the listed 10 items.
Marketing costs, not in selling the property after it's in its development stage, but marketing it to get the financing. So when I say marketing, I understand usually what marketing tends to mean to everybody is, I'm selling something.
Right.
And to the retail public. And I don't mean marketing that way, I mean marketing to wholesale and on the finance side.
I think
So
you
you
could
and I
probably
are
go
clear.
both. Most of the time, marketing really is done more by the municipality for most TIFs. In other words, the municipality is going out trying to get developers. We already have our developer for this piece.
Right.
But for those other pieces down on either side of it, marketing costs could be one. But you make a good point. There may not be a lot of eligible expenses between now and the actual redevelopment agreement. The biggest, redevelopment reimbursement is usually the purchase of the property.
Right.
But too late.
And then I'm sure there'll be some infrastructure and
Infrastructure
to
is
that
eligible.
extent, I mean, I think he should get reimbursed for the infrastructure that's on the public right away anyway. And that's down the road though, so I won't bore you with that. I'd like to see before we go approve this, since we don't really need it yet, is what the terms of the Elmer's project are. So that if we need to be more aggressive for him, those on the board that want this approved in this way have the opportunity to be more aggressive than Elmhurst is already. For those of us on the board that may or may not want to do that, that may be less slightly likely to go that way, have the opportunity to see what did the project give the developer in Elmhurst? And then, why does this resolution not acknowledge, it seems like we're in a position in this, when I read it, it seems like it tells us that we're in a position of there is no redevelopment agreement in place right now, or development agreement in place. And there actually is a development agreement in place right now. This resolution doesn't acknowledge that there's a resolution in place right now. And I think if we're gone by the time this comes up again I've only got a year left. So theoretically, this could be in front of somebody sitting in my seat, and they go read this, and it says the developer in this third whereas has informed the village that it would like to redevelop the subject property. It seems like he's coming to us, that Mr. Goldman's and Golden Spike, who are excellent developers, and he's an excellent presenter himself, so no problems. We've got a great partner here, but it looks like it's coming to us for the first time with this document. And I think that's a little misleading. So I'd like this to be amended to incorporate the fact that there is a redevelopment agreement in place already, have that acknowledged in here, and I think that's all my comments.
Yes, whoever would like to
I'll
respond to
take
that,
it.
yes.
Elmhurst. Elmhurst cannot do any more than we can do because the TIF Act specifies what kind of reimbursements we can give to the developer. So there's nothing that Elmhurst can do under the TIF Act that we can't do. There's no difference because of population or anything like that. So whatever Elmhurst has given them is in compliance with the TIF Act. Whatever we're going to give the developer will have to also be in compliance with the TIF Act. So there really isn't anything that they can give them more than what we can give them. That decision, though, is really going to be up to the board. The decision as to how much we're going to reimburse them. And that's just like the Elmhurst board, how much they're going to reimburse them. But that has so many different factors as the size of the project and what they've already spent and all these other things, as part of which will be in the redevelopment plan, because that plan that comes back is going to have some analysis as to what this is going to increase, what the EAV will be, and some other things. But as far as Elmhurst can't do any more than we can.
Was Elmhurst project approval of their ordinance, was that a situation where the developer was coming to them and hadn't yet bought the property?
I don't
Not
know
that it
the
matters, I don't
details.
really care.
I don't think we can, because if it was, and they hadn't bought the property, that would be an eligible expense. It's just like I said, Elmhurst can't do any more than we can do as far as TIF.
Yeah.
So if it's an eligible expense, it's an eligible expense.
I'm fully willing to.
Can I ask
Yeah,
one more
and
question?
Rick- yes,
Chris, I
Rick
mean,
Goldman. Yes.
Because this is actually very informative, as we are a team, which is true. I was under the impression that things like soil testing and architectural fees and a lot of the that we talked about stacking in our schedule could be done at the same time if this, again, not that it's committed to, but if I go out and I release my soil and my civil engineer and I do a lot of the base layering site stuff design-wise while this is going through, that is money that I could be spending that is eligible in the development agreement down the road. So if this doesn't pass, then I don't start that, and that pushes our time frame out. So that I guess I'm answering the question with another question, saying my understanding of the process was those are eligible expenses if this resolution is passed that says when I come back 2 years from now and say, here's what I started spending in March of 2014 to do all the soil remediation and all that stuff over in the northeast corner. If I do that now to expedite getting a shovel in the ground, if I don't do that, like I learned the hard way with some of the land and stuff, then I just don't do it, because a lot of the stuff, the way I understand it, Chris, is everything up until we come out of the ground is almost eligible, meaning a lot of it is the pre-construction kind of stuff and not building-related expenses. So in order to allow it to begin simultaneously, that is the nature of this thing, because otherwise it would not make any sense for me to start doing any of that until a resolution was passed, if I understand it correctly.
It was actually my perception that all the engineering, infrastructure engineering anyway, was already done, and the soil coring would have been done
All preliminary
already.
stuff. So we gotta take it to the next level. So all that stuff,
Okay.
we've had preliminary
Preliminary,
bits of everything
okay.
done, but there's some
Understood.
soil, there's a lot of civil underground and things that we could be doing simultaneously
Okay.
that our understanding is that's beneficial to everybody, obviously, at the fact that we outlay it regardless. And to answer, and one more thing about
That
the.
is true, what he said. It just depends where he's at in the process.
Right.
But things
Fine.
like environmental remediation,
Yeah.
clearly an eligible expense. Some things, though, new construction is not an eligible expense, but some of the preliminary things, engineering, soil, some of those things are eligible
And the
expenses.
stuff that's on the infrastructure that is in the public rights of way, that's eligible.
All that would be
Yeah,
included,
okay.
yes.
And all that stuff. So we kind of would like to do that simultaneously, would be our intention. You know what I mean, assuming we got a good comfort level that the rest of the pieces were coming together, we would like to do that simultaneously to going through this process. And while I'm not an expert on what is happening, to answer your question, I do know that one of the advantages, the big thing, is that the deal with the land, and again, it's very hard to find information on their website. It's not nearly as open as our website is. I've done as much research as I can. I'm hoping someone that's is that it was basically an RFP, so the city controlled the land and auctioned it off, and that is what's really crippling us right now. So when you ask a very good question about the competitiveness of it, like we did a project, I don't know how many remember we were talking about in my background, we did a project like this in Milwaukee years ago. Milwaukee bought up all the land along the river, and they went to guys like us and said, you tell me, is it worth $10? Because we basically, you won the award because we like your project, and the land was kind of tossed in. So what they're dealing with now is not only do they got a TIF, but Elmhurst already bought that. And as Manager Keener said, we took this on ourselves as a private company and have secured it and maintained it, which for those of us in the room and doers, we know that was no small feat during the last 5 years to have kept it in good stead. But that's the big difference. That's the metric that we're really struggling with, is what that deal is. Nobody knows. There's two people competing on it. So Lincoln and Morningside. So that's the two big players other than us. That's the guy from Wheaton and Ovaltine. And they both were dancing with us for a while until that carrot got thrown in them to say, is the land going to be the deal? So the land really caught us off guard because they just kind of assembled it themselves and the city controlled it, where we took it on ourselves and you guys don't control it. So that's going to be the delta, if you will. The guidelines are the guidelines, but if their deal is, hey, we think it's worth a penny, and they say we like the project because we like the revenue, they have a little lever that does it. So that's kind of that's a big difference. I mean, that's but I don't know the specifics of it, but that's how it works. So that it's a competition to earn it.
Thank you. Make one more comment then.
Can I respond to your second question?
Absolutely.
Your second question was, should we put in this resolution the prior zoning approvals? The reason I don't do that is because that's really a separate matter, which we could address again in the redevelopment agreement. In the redevelopment agreement, we will provide and recite those approvals that this board has already done. Now, it's also a time, and I don't like to bring it up, but it's also a time to, if there's possibly some changes that may be made. I don't know where we're at in that process, but basically in the redevelopment agreement, we will have some pretty clear plans. They may just be the plans that we've already approved attached, and because the developer will agree to perform that construction. Certain costs will be incurred, and we will agree to reimburse certain costs. But I don't like putting it in now because that's really more appropriate in the redevelopment agreement. The redevelopment agreement is the details as to what's going to be done by the developer, what we're going to do, and what we're going to reimburse.
Okay. So I understand. I think it's misleading to the next person that's sitting here, so I don't want to put them in a bad position. So that's the only reason I like it there. And then the last thing I would have is, was it 2,600 or 26,000 for the? 26,000.
26,000.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, it was 26,000. I thought I heard somebody throw out a number of 2,600, not on the board, but earlier. And
You're referring to the feasibility study.
correct, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then, in regard to that 26,000, although I very much would like to take Mr. Goldman's 26,000, I don't think you could do that. Because it's gonna look wrong. It'll be a big appearance of impropriety to have the developer that's gonna benefit from the TIF district that's potentially approved reimburse us for the cost of adopting the particular TIF district that's being studied. It's like, here's 26 grand to study this. Oh, it helps me? Great. I mean, that doesn't look, to me, if that's not a conflict for the village, I don't know what is. Not that it's a conflict for Mr., it's right up, it's consistent with his interests, but I don't think it's very consistent for the village internally to accept that. Although I wish we could.
I'll respond
Attorney would
again.
like to respond
It's
to
not
that.
in
That's
this resolution. If that agreement was done, that would have to be done in the redevelopment agreement. And by the way, the study is a TIF eligible expense. So, I mean, it gets a little more complicated, but when we'll get down to the redevelopment agreement, those may be issues. It's nice that the developer is representing that he's gonna do that at this time. This doesn't commit him to do that. Could have a discussion later on in the redevelopment agreement of whether or not we'll reimburse for
Well,
that.
couldn't we just reimburse ourselves?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to make sure. So there
you
might be
for
some other
asking.
questions,
Thank you.
yeah, on the board. Any other questions and comments from the board? Check on my right, how about you guys?
No, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on.
Still trying to process,
say?
huh?
We're good.
Okay, fair enough.
I thought I had it all. I agree with what Jim said, though.
Yes.
It made sense to me with his explanation.
Okay, all right. Anybody else on the board? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Davis. Trustee Ayello.
No.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. And we will now convene to the formal agenda. Okay. Item number 1 on the formal, the village president's report, and I learned literally seconds before we went live that we have a couple guests in our chamber, and I'd like to get to them first before I get into a couple other things. So first things first, I'd like to have you come up, because I didn't officially get to meet you before the meeting, so if you'd like to come up to the podium and introduce yourself. I need you to come up to the podium, though. Understand you wanted to share a few words with us. You could, thanks for hanging in there with us, but yeah, come to the podium there. And then state your name for the record and sign in on the piece of paper that's there as well. We need to capture you for the record. And just need you to state your name too. And
Okay,
then,
my name is Lawrence Kafish, Larry Kafish.
Uh-huh. And tell us why you're here. I understand you wanted to share a few things with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm running for Congress in the Illinois 8th Congressional District.
Okay.
And we are making our rounds across the district. I wanted to come in and meet you and have a chance to see some of the issues that you're dealing with.
Okay.
And we're happy and fortunate to be able to be included, so thank you for having us.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. In a
And
very
Catherine Phillips is one of our key volunteers.
Oh, well, wonderful.
And a terrific photographer.
Well, thank you. Yeah, like I said, caught wind that you were here and wanted to say a couple words. So thanks for hanging in there with us as we got to the formal agenda. And all right, well, thank you for your time and for introducing yourself.
Okay, thank you for having us.
Okay. And then we also had somebody from the Union Pacific. Did he? Okay, we will get back to.
He'll be back shortly.
Okay, all right, well then, I'm gonna move into my report then, and we'll circle back to the Union Pacific then, we have another item there. I've asked Manager Keener to provide us with a couple updates in regards to some things that have been going on. First thing is, we're working on a new water billing system that will help alleviate some of the financial burden, if you will, in terms of paying quarterly versus monthly. So I've asked the manager to give us a quick update. And before you do that, if I can ask Rick Goldman or somebody who's close to the boards, if we can take the boards down so that we have some folks sitting behind us actually. You know, sorry about that. No, I meant to actually mention that before. So y'all can see a better point of view now. Okay. Yes, if you'd like.
No, that's fine.
So, yeah, whatever you're comfortable with. But, so yes, we'll give an update then on the billing system that the village has been working on to try to make it a little easier on the residents and the business owners. That's first update.
Well, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes, as a village, I've tasked staff to come back with a plan to implement monthly utility billing. And right now, I'm sure folks in the audience and at home that everyone knows that we're on a quarterly system now. And some of the quarterly bills are rather large. And some folks have come to us and asked to see if we could go on monthly utility billing as NICOR, as ComEd, as your cable TV bill. And so staff has come back with me with a proposal that we will be able to go live with monthly utility billing as bills rendered May 1st, 2014. And we already have the finance software that gives us the capability to do that. And taking that one step further, I've also been invited to a meeting at the Salt Creek Sanitary District last Monday night. During the snowstorm, I went and I provided them with a proposal to do combined utility billing. So in other words, it'd be a combined utility bill with water from Villa Park and sanitary sewer district at the bottom of the bill. And by doing that, we could possibly save the sewer district some funding, but also save some of our customers from having a headache of having multiple bills due on a quarterly basis. So it's our attempt right now to go to combined utility bill effective May 1st. And hopefully that'll be approved by the Salt Creek Sanitary Sewer District so that when you receive your monthly utility bill from us, they'll be on it also, and you can make one payment. Also, I haven't brought up in some time that we're redoing our website right now, and probably within the next few weeks we'll have a brand new website go live. We're in the midst of discussing with several software folks of also implementing with our new website the acceptance of Visa and MasterCard bills on our website for utility billing, for permit fees, for ambulance fees, for citations, things of that nature, so that you can do that from home, etc. You don't need to come in, but also that anywhere in the village you would be able to pay your utility bill. So we're trying to get the card swipes, say for economic and community development at North Avenue, or you can pay everything at the police station or Public Works or come to Village Hall. So hopefully we can get that all wrapped up in a package and get it live, but we're pretty excited that we can offer that. So I hope that answers your question, Your Honor.
Yes, yes. And again, going from quarterly to monthly billing for the water and sewer bills. So hopefully by spreading it out a little bit more, instead of getting hit with a chunk every quarter, we'll make things a little bit easier. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Also, we've been talking a lot about Ardmore Avenue. We've got a streetscape project coming up. It's a $900,000 streetscape project that was covered mostly by grant funds. And there's been some activity happening behind the scenes with that. And I've asked the manager to just give us a quick little update on where we're at with that. And this is from North Avenue to the trains tracks on Ardmore. So it's a lot going on with this particular streetscape project. So.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. And as staff, we're still meeting and kind of ironing out the wrinkles. But before we came up to the dais this evening, Director Giskelis asked me if he could appear on camera this evening and talk about the streetscape. So
we know how much you love it. We could gonna share the TV time.
It'll be a very brief visit on camera.
Yeah, okay. Director
We're
Descalis, our
expecting-
Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Ron.
For those who don't.
We're expecting to actually get back some initial renderings from the consultant next week, and staff will be going through them. And shortly thereafter, we're gonna assemble the public team that we talked about to actually start selecting some of the amenities. So I'm hoping all of that will happen within the next month.
And that's the partnership with two of our commissions. The Environmental Concerns Commission is being one, and then also Community Pride, I believe, was the other. So,
Well,
yeah,
whoever
so-
you send, we will
yeah,
talk to.
hasn't been official yet, but it's coming.
But next week, we hope to
It's
see the
coming.
initial renderings, so
Yeah,
we're
it's coming,
excited
so,
about
for
that.
feedback, so, okay. And, so, and the streetscape project will involve sidewalks, new lighting, seating, planters, pretty much anything and everything related to a
Some
streetscape.
street furniture, some curb work, some angle parking,
Oh.
but basically between the bridge and the railroad tracks, that whole corridor will be enhanced.
Okay, all right. Do we have well, we don't really have a timeline yet, because we want to pull in some extra eyes and ears, but what do you envision? Do you have any idea?
Well, with federal funding, a timeline
Ah,
is always
yeah.
difficult to predict, but
I
we
gotta
do
ask.
have construction proposed in the next fiscal year budget, so we're hopeful that that occurs.
Oh, okay. All righty, well, it's still very early on in the process, so, thank you for that. Okay. And then I asked for another really quick update on, activity happening at North Park Plaza, otherwise known as North Park Mall. So, Manager Keener, if you can give us kind of an update on that, we'll be seeing some more activity out there this year.
Yes, there is some activity, and Your Honor, Director Fiola mentioned she'd like to appear on camera one more time and give us a brief update on North Park Mall.
And what's going on there, just in terms of Foreman Mills and kind of what's going on there, and landscaping, and just some things that we'll be seeing occurring in the next several months.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we're very excited that the North Park Mall changed, has new ownership recently, and they, as you can see from the new sign that they have along North Avenue, two new signs,
Yeah.
absolutely, and the painting of the overall buildings. We have Fresh Market, PetSmart, the Foreman Mills, I guess is
Yes.
coming to town,
Mhm.
taking hundreds of thousands of square feet, and we're very excited.
Where the
my-
furniture store used to be.
Where the furniture store used to be, on the east end of the mall. And Five Star has come to us also with some proposed redevelopment, so the overall mall has really been transformed. So we're very, very excited with the new landscaping and the overall cleanup that they've done to the whole mall.
So, in Foreman Mills, when do you think they'll be ready? I know I'm putting you a little bit on the spot on that one.
No, we met with the developers, and they anticipate June.
June. And that's a clothing store, sporting goods store. They sell a little bit of everything, is that right? I did a little bit of research on them.
Mostly clothing, and it's an East Coast
Yes.
clothing store. So yeah, they're very popular East Coast, and we're very excited to have them.
Starting to come into the Chicago market, so.
Yes.
Alrighty. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I also just want to give a shout out and thank our police detectives, Bill Lyons and Dennis Campos. They hosted through the police department, they hosted a community awareness meeting the other night, last week, in regards to some of the residential burglaries that have been taking place. They pulled together residents from the areas that are being affected, and at the residents' request, and talked about the residential burglaries and kind of what the residents can do to keep an eye out, ear out. When I understand the police are still in hot pursuit of the people involved with these crimes, so continue to keep your ears and eyes open. If you see anything weird, suspicious, probably is, call 911. Give our police officers a chance to catch these people. And but it was just a really a good, it was a rough topic, but a good showing from the residents that are truly concerned about our town and really want to be a part of that. So and they want to be a part of catching the people involved. So it was a good overall opportunity to be there, so I just wanted to thank the police for that. And then also just a friendly reminder that we have Coffee with the Board on Saturday, March 1st here at Village Hall, 9 a.m. And we've had more and more residents showing up, so please come and share an hour or two of your time on Saturday morning if you have it. Okay, thanks so much. With that, I'm going to move on to item number 2, because I don't see our friend from Union Pacific, so we'll circle back if I'm looking for somebody else that's still not available, so we'll go back to that. Item number 2 then on the formal agenda is public comments on agenda items. This is regarding items listed under items 4 through 6 on the formal. If anybody from the public has anything they would like to talk about on the agenda under items 4 through 6 on the formal agenda.
Can I ask something about the president's report?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diane Blair Sherlock again. So you're talking about changing the utility bills to monthly. Is that going to change people who have auto withdrawal?
Oh.
Would we have to like re-sign up or?
That's a good question.
We'll research that and let everyone know. There's going to be education process for changing over, so we'll let folks know. And when the Village Matters comes out with the spring, and there'll be probably a full-page article on that and some tweets and some social media stuff that we'll do too to get the word out. So happy to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other public comments on the agenda items 4 through 6 on the formal? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 3 then. Amendments of the agenda. Does anybody on the board have any amendments you'd like to make to the formal agenda? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 4 on the formal consent agenda. It's items A through E. I'll just read the headings for the record. A, minutes from the Village Committee of the Whole for February 10th, 2014. Minutes from the Village Formal Board Meeting for February 10th, 2014. Consider a resolution increasing non-union employee health insurance premium percentage. And consider a resolution approving a contract proposal from Lane Christensen for the removal and inspection of apparatus within well number 7. Have a motion on the consent agenda?
There's an E.
Oh, do I have an E too? Oh, I missed it. Yep, and there's an E. Consider a resolution adopting the 2014 municipal legislative priorities of the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference. Okay, there you got them all. Now can we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Madam President,
Trustee Bolfus.
make a motion for the consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Madam President.
Oh, who's that? Trustee Davis.
Second.
Okay. Questions and comments from the board? We good? Okay, roll call vote.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Aiello.
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
President Bullwinkle.
Yes. Item number 5 on the formal, consider approval of an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, providing for a feasibility study and report with respect to the designation of a certain area as a tax increment financing redevelopment project area, the North Ardmore area. The legislative purpose of the TIF Act is to encourage development through the use of incremental tax revenues derived from an increase in assessed values in the eligible areas by assisting with development or redevelopment project costs, thereby eliminating adverse and detrimental conditions that erode the tax base both within an eligible area and adjacent to such area. The corporate authorities desire to conduct a feasibility study of certain properties within the corporate boundaries of the village in order to determine the eligibility of said properties as a redevelopment project area pursuant to the provisions of the TIF Act, which properties are generally within an area bounded on the north by East Vermont Street, on the east by North Douglas Avenue, on the south by West Terrace Street, and on the west by North Harvard Avenue, considered the area as shown on the map attached hereto and made a part of hereof by reference as Exhibit A. The corporate authorities have determined that Ehlers and Associates possesses the necessary skills and experience to determine if the area qualifies as a redevelopment project area under the TIF Act and to prepare a redevelopment plan, and desires to authorize Ehlers and Associates to undertake a feasibility study and to prepare such reports as required with respect to the eligibility of the area as a tax increment financing redevelopment project area. Motion on number 5, item 5?
Madam President,
Trustee Bolfus.
make a motion for item 5.
Okay, do I have a second?
Madam President,
Trustee Wagner.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, questions and comments from the board? We spent quite a bit of time before, in case you thought of something else. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Item number 6 on the formal. Consider approving an inducement resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, to induce the redevelopment of certain property within a tax increment financing redevelopment project area, Garden Station Project. Consider an inducement resolution to permit the developer of the Garden Station to begin to bank development costs should the village board allow him to proceed. Have a motion on item number 6?
Madam President,
Trustee Bolfus.
make a motion for item number 6.
Do I have a second?
Madam President,
Trustee Wagner.
I'll second that motion.
Any questions and comments from the board? And we spent a lot of time before, but if you thought of anything else. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Bolfus?
Yes.
Trustee Taglia?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Davis?
No.
Trustee Aiello?
No.
President Bullwinkle?
Yes. Item number 7, public comments on non-agenda items. If anybody has anything on your mind in regards to non-agenda items, please approach the podium. This will be the time to do it. I need you to state your name for the record. Hi.
Hi, I'm Angie Rojek.
Okay.
Let me sign in.
Yep, and you're signing in. Thank you very much for the record.
No problem. I just wanted to talk, Bob Wagner and I had a brief kind of email back and forth a little bit about a public meeting about the pools.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that he was going to discuss that in his report.
I was going to ask a question.
That's, okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was
yeah,
brought up.
yep.
And then also, just in reference to the new website, I was looking on the website today for some information about Jan, actually, who just left. And her name's not on there, and there's a lot of old, and I know the website is being redone.
It is.
So maybe write on there, in progress or something, because
Oh.
it's like a lot of old information, so I just
Okay.
figured I'd bring that up.
All right. Thank you.
Economic development.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Public comments, non-agenda items? Okay. We're gonna move on to item number 8, village clerk's report.
Yeah, I just
Anything
have,
for us?
yes, I just have one event to announce. The Kiwanis Club will have a special fundraiser for the Eliminate Project, which has been going on, this is now the 4th year, beginning the 4th year, to eliminate maternal neonatal tetanus. And we're very fortunate to have Lou Manfredini, WGN's Mr. Fix-It, and co-owner of the Villa Park Ace Hardware Store. And this is for March 8th, an event. He's going to be there from 11 till noon. And the event is $10 at the door. This includes lunch and a chance to talk, questions and answers with Mr. Manfredini. I understand, I know his radio program is well-received, a lot of questions, but I understand when he's in public, there are many, many people have questions, and he covers everything. He seems to know all areas of home repair. So we're looking forward to this event, and we hope people see the advertising in different stores and flyers and also in the newspapers. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, gonna move on to the village trustees report. Now, look to my right, trustee Bolfus.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Trustee Taglia.
Okay, I do have an announcement for the VFW. All right, it's been a long winter. We're all pretty tired of it. So, March 7th, the fish fry at the VFW is going to have a theme. It's going to be Lose the Winter Blues. So, I know we need to do that. So, wear your best Hawaiian shirt. Come to the fish fry. They're going to have a luau type Hawaiian themed fish fry. They're going to have palm trees and leis, and it should be a good time. So, come on out March 7th to the fish fry at the VFW. And I just want to do a thank you to the Villa Park Police. They caught a young man who broke into a church and vandalized it on Ardmore in Washington. So thanks to Eric Heyman and his guys. I don't know who all was there, but I ran into him, and I just want to thank the police department for doing a great job catching a bad guy. So thanks, guys.
Okay. To my left, trustee Davis.
Nothing tonight.
No, okay. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a couple items. I just want to let the public know that the Villa Park Library will have their annual tea time at the library, and this is tea time as in miniature golf. So that will be this Sunday, March 2nd, from 12 to 4 p.m. And the staff there does a great job. They transform the library into an 8-hole miniature golf course. And been to that in the past. It's really enjoyable.
It's a blast.
It's a good thing for help the library raise some funds. And maybe circulating an email to the trustees for anyone who might be interested in participating in a sponsorship on the behalf of the village board. So just want to remind residents that early voting starts Monday, March 3rd. Local sites for early voting are Elmhurst City Hall, Yorktown Mall, and Addison Township Office. This coming Thursday, February 27th, the Environmental Concerns Commission will be holding their meeting at 7:15 here at Village Hall. And I know they have a couple of vacancies. And if anyone's interested, any residents are interested, I encourage them to come to the Environmental Concerns Commission meeting. I was fortunate this weekend to run into Congresswoman Duckworth on 2 occasions. And I know that she was visiting local schools. And it was great to see her. She mentioned that she was asked by the president to be his representative at the Paralympics in Sochi, Russia. So she'll be traveling there. But she was out and about in the district, and it was great to see her. Just want to mention, or just ask the question, and I know that there's been a lot of discussion because residents have asked when the town hall meeting is. I know there are plans for that, and plans have been in the working. Are we able to make that announcement tonight, or is it?
I believe yes, I think
Okay.
we've got a hot off the press, literally, announcement about that, so.
Go ahead.
Yeah, looks like manager just slipped me a note to let me know that the date for the town hall meeting that will be to discuss the pools, and we'll probably also incorporate some updates in regards to the road referendum and the stormwater, while we have a captive audience, but it'll be primarily about the pools, on March 11th, which is Tuesday, March 11th at 7 p.m. We're gonna do this at Willowbrook High School, and so we had to kind of work through their chain, if you will, to nail down a date. We've been working on that. We had a couple dates kind of up on the wall, and this one is the one that came back that works best. So we wanted to get that out there, and this is literally hot off the press. So I'm glad to see that we've got a date confirmed for that. So Tuesday, March 11th, 7 p.m. And we'll get information out there, via our social media outlets, and the Nixle, which is a text messaging service, our Facebook page, articles in the paper, things of that nature, and we're honing the agenda too. So, but yeah, I'm glad that we have a date that we can finally share. So, yes.
Thank you, Madam President. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
but
not at all. This is
a lot of folks-
literally, yeah.
Okay, great.
Hot off the press, so.
And that's all I had.
This is great. We've been waiting. So, all right. Thank you. Okay. Trustee Aiello.
Just one thing, I was talking to some people that are involved in the district school in the area, and they mentioned that in the prior TIF districts we've had, when they've come to an end and the projects were completed, if there was a surplus left of the TIFs, that surplus was oftentimes refunded to the schools. So I know the Ovaltine TIF is done, and there's a surplus there, so I'm wondering if the village staff or us may consider refunding that to the local school districts.
It goes back to all districts.
Okay. Manager, did you want to respond to that? And then we'll also have that, or you can, however you want to do it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It's spring in my ear, so.
The village has a number of TIFs within its borders, and Trustee Aiello, the Ovaltine TIF is not yet terminated. I think it has maybe 4 or 5 more years. If there's a surplus at the end of that time, it'll go back to all the taxing bodies because they'll share in any type of surplus per state statute. I believe we have the Target TIF still going on. I think that's got several more years. And folks at home and in the audience, the Target TIF is for the development of Target on North Avenue, specifically for that store. And there was bonds sold to create that store and develop it. And every year when they pay their property taxes, it goes into the TIF pool, and then the village reimburses them for their bond costs, et cetera, each year. So I think it's got about 2 more years to go. Then we have the St. Charles TIF that has a number of years to go yet. And I think we might have one more. Let's see, North Avenue TIF has a number of years yet to go. Some are doing well and some aren't doing well. All depends on what type of EAV increase or decrease within the TIF. But the only one that's probably close right now is a Target, followed by the Ovaltine. So thank you, Your Honor.
The TIF for Walmart, though, was ended early, and I guess maybe I should rephrase how I said that. I don't mean that we are done, that the time frame that was allotted for it has come to an end. I mean, the projects that were associated with why it was created came to an end. So I believe, what my understanding is for Walmart, there was one that ended, and then rather than just waiting the 6 more years, or the 8 more years, or the 4 more years, or the 2 more years, it was just terminated and was refunded. And that's my understanding. I could be wrong, which Al's telling me I'm not. I am completely wrong. So I'll check my sources and get back to you.
Space here.
Walmart wasn't a TIF.
Right.
It was a sales tax reimbursement.
All right.
So,
All right. So I'll have to check my sources and get back.
check with me
Yeah.
first.
Next time,
Probably
next
good
time, Al, I might call you.
Yes.
Can you do that, though? Can you end it early? I mean, can you terminate the TIF early?
You,
Yep, please.
you
Whoever.
can, as long as there's no outstanding obligations, which would be a redevelopment agreement or any financing bonds or anything outside. If everything is done and there's no obligations, you can terminate it early. When you do terminate, the statute requires us to give notice to the other districts, because that's a real nice EAV increase, which they can add into the
Right,
budget
the
process
budget,
for the
right.
next year.
Right.
And anything that is, any surplus funds that aren't being used, go back proportionally based on your tax bill, so.
Well, and part of my thinking is, we're trying to get more TIFs approved. Well, give back might be a good swap.
As long as there's no projects or no
Understood.
obligations.
Okay, thank you. Nothing more.
Manager Keener, would you like to add to that?
Yes, thank you. And in fact, there is still bond payments in the Ovaltine TIF that need to be made. And so the TIF obviously needs to continue so we can make those bond payments to the developer. And that's probably at least 2.5 more years or so, I believe, just off the top of my head. But, as a village, we don't always create a TIF to help out a developer. I mean, we have a number of TIFs within the boundaries of Villa Park, but we have done a lot to bring in development within the village, not necessarily with the TIF. I think the board and residents at home, you may remember, but we've done a number of sales tax incentive rebates, which does not take money away from the schools, it takes money away from the village. We've also done TIF agreements and sales tax agreements, which obviously some of the taxing bodies lose, but the village loses sales tax and property tax at the same time. And of course, I don't want to put any businesses on the spot and name names, but we've helped out many businesses worth hundreds of thousands of dollars without creating TIFs. So we certainly are very aggressive as a community to have development within our borders. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to item number 10, Village Manager's Report.
Oh, Your Honor.
What do you have?
Oh.
You're scribbling away over there.
Well, I've got my favorite things I always bring up. And I'll start with the budget process. It's that time of year, so we've put together a very, very good budget. So the budget will be transmitted to the board this week. It's obviously a draft. And Monday, the March 3rd, will be at 7 p.m. our first budget workshop. So Monday, March 3rd, here in the chambers, our first budget workshop at 7 o'clock, and we'll talk about the enterprise funds and capital projects. So won't last till midnight or anything. Then on Monday, March 10th, at 7:30 p.m., we'll start talking probably about the corporate funds that Monday night. within the regular meeting. So that'll be public affairs, police, fire, my office, et cetera, finance, things of that nature. And then we also have March 17th set aside for a budget workshop if needed. And then on Monday, March 24th, there'll be a public hearing at 7:15 p.m. here in the board chambers. And then Monday, March 24th at 7:30, then we'll start discussing the overall budget and 5-year capital improvement during the committee of the whole. And then we'll have the first reading of the budget ordinance at that time also. And then on April 14th at 7:30, we'll have the second reading of the budget ordinance, which actually adopts the budget for fiscal year 2014, 2015. And folks at home, our fiscal year is May 1st through April 30th. So the budget that I'm speaking of that will be considered by the board will start May 1st, 2014 and end April 30th, 2015. And we've taken a number of items into consideration, which is some of the items that the board always looks at, like our demolition fund, pool repair. There's a sum of money in for that. Also, recently a DCEO grant was an outstanding DCEO grant, state of Illinois, for $20,000 that was awarded to the village that's coming through. So we put that into the budget. Also have a number of probably vehicles that we'll purchase or propose to purchase. But again, I think it's a very good budget, a good working budget, taking a lot of things into consideration. And I think the board will be very pleased, and obviously we'll be pleased to present it and get it out of the way. So enough of that. Let me go on to my favorite of things to talk about, because everyone knows that March 20th is the first day of spring and it can't get here fast enough. So we have had, so far, about 67.9 inches of snow as of February 19th. And
Did you say 67?
67.9 inches of snow. We still have salt. We probably have about 400 tons of salt remaining. We haven't ran out. We did use calcium chloride. We did use beet juice. But the one, and for the next budget, I should say that as a staff, we try to keep beyond 1 year's salt on hand. So you're going to see a salt purchase in this next proposed budget of probably close to 1,300 tons or so. About a year and a half, maybe a year and 3/4 we'll purchase, and then put that in our salt dome, because we always like to have at least 1 year's salt surplus on hand. And really, I'm glad we did this year, because certain villages around us or cities ran out and they called me, and quite honestly, we don't really have any to spare, at least not this year. One item that is a concern is that we had 51 frozen water services. And I brought this up at our last board meeting, and what this really is, it's kind of a strange effect that from the Buffalo box, if you will, or the B box, it turns your water ladder off. It could be in your driveway, it could be in the right-of-way, etc. But it's frozen from the B box to the water main, or it's frozen from the B box to the home. We don't know which, but we did have 51. I think we're down to 45.
47.
Okay, 47. And what we have to do as a village is we have to excavate around the B box, and then we have a mechanism that we hook up to the B box that pumps warm water either way once we determine which part's frozen to unthaw it. Well, our part has broken. We've ordered a new one. It's not here. So we kind of invented this certain mechanism. we are using a turkey fryer to unthaw these water services.
Now we're talking turkey now.
Yeah.
We've unthawed 6 of them this way, but as an example, my next door neighbor has a frozen water service, and I looked at him and I said, I am no hurry to discontinue helping you with water, because what happens when they have a water service that's frozen, you go to the next door neighbor and you can receive water from their spigot outside. So right now there's a hose at my house running from my home to my neighbor's, from my spigot. So I turn my spigot on, and it feeds water to my neighbors. And and I told my neighbor, I said, please don't be in a hurry because we'll have to dig up probably part of your driveway to fix this. And then from then, you got to wait for everything to settle and could be a while. So I said, don't be in a hurry. It's no inconvenience to me. So please, if you're helping your neighbors, it's, I don't consider it an inconvenience. I think it's an honor to help my neighbors and be a part of Village of Villa Park. But I certainly hate to tear up my neighbor's driveway to unfreeze his service. If we could just wait a couple more weeks and hopefully it'll thaw out. So there were 51, we're down to 47, and it's the strangest thing. But the frost seems to be going a little bit deeper, and it freezes the service. But if you leave your water trickle just a little bit, it'll get some circulation, and hopefully that won't happen to you. But 67.9 inches of snow so far. That's a lot. Also, as a village, we've been going around cleaning out the inlets, taking the plow around and pushing the snow off of the curbs into the right-of-way so the water will run down the curb. So remember, please clean your inlets. As I drove around the village today, I saw some inlets that had leaves and some debris that needed to be cleaned out. So I gotta go back and get that. But if you happen to see it, please clean your inlets because it'll back up the water. We're out patching. We've got the hot box going, and then we have the cold patch going. And I think we did Jackson today. I think we hit Park. I think we went down Summit. And if we didn't, that means we're getting them tomorrow.
Yeah, Summit's
But
roughed
if
up.
you want to call my office, if you've seen a large pothole or something, just call my office. Be happy to put it on a list, get the crew out there. So we're doing the hot box, we're doing the cold patching. To address the website question that we're a little out of date, the website that we have right now, and this is an example why we're leaving the website we have right now, is because the front page is fixed, and to go in and do certain changes, they charge us, and I call it nickel and diming. And so they charge us to do certain things. So now we're leaving this old site, we're going to the new website, and by, I think 17 different staff members have been trained to make updates to the new website. So we don't need to have anybody else do it. We have certain folks designated as publishers, we have certain folks designated as authors, and we have certain folks designated as administrators of the website. So some folks have the ability to publish, some folks have the ability to be authors, and then some folks, as an administrator, can do it all. So we're kind of, it's a economy of scale, so we're going to teach our team to do the changes so we don't have to pay a third party to make those changes. So our website may be out of date in a few spots, but when the new one comes up, you'll be impressed. The VFW has now, besides on Friday nights, they have the fish fry. Well, on Thursday nights now, they have a wing ding night. And they're not your normal small chicken wings. They're huge. And then there's also chicken strips like the size of my hand. So Thursday nights, it's wing ding night at the VFW. I went last Thursday night and it was awesome. It was just way too much food to eat. So,
What's the cost? Do you know what the cost is?
You know what? I
It's a
think
buck a wing.
it's a buck a wing.
Buck a wing,
Good
wow.
stuff.
There's about
Can't
9
beat
to
that.
10 different sauces that you can dip them in. There's a ginger sauce, there's a buffalo sauce, and it's amazing.
Staff loves to eat.
Yeah, if it's free, it's
We
for
all
us.
like to eat.
So, it was mentioned earlier about Congresswoman Duckworth. If you're not using social media, please sign up for Twitter. And Congresswoman Duckworth sends out about 3 tweets a day. And one of the tweets was the Paralympics. And what she has done the last few days, she sends out about 3 tweets a day. As a village, we sometimes send out 3 or 4 tweets a day. The library sends out about 20 tweets a day. The Villa Park Warriors sends out tweets. Worlderbrook High School sends out tweets. So if you want information that is up to date and lively, come in and sign up for a Twitter account. Come and look us up and follow us, and then you can tweet tweets to us. And if we like your tweet, we'll retweet it to our followers. And our social media accounts, Constant Contact has grown 300%. Our Twitter accounts are growing. And once we have the new website up and running, there could be a blog part of that. There could be, you can click on it, do a tweet. You can do the Facebook. So lots happening. And we do have our own Facebook, Village of Villa Park, etc., that we have a lot of different things on. And what we did is we have the intern from NIU, Adam Hall, that has trained some staff in Twitter. And then we have two folks that update our webpage, or our Facebook account. About every day we get out some fresh articles. So there's a lot happening. Send us an article if you want. Excuse me. Happy to tweet it out. And with that, Your Honor, I pass because I'm losing my voice.
Quite a list. Pop quiz later. All right. We didn't forget about our village attorney. Have anything?
No report.
Nothing? Okay. It's item number 11. Okay. Item number 12, information only, bill listing dated February 24th, 2014, in the amount of $498,089.02. Any questions? Oh, any questions on the bill listing? No? Okay, then. The manager just whispered he has one more item. So
I have one
the
very.
floor one more time.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No,
Thank
no,
you.
no, go for it.
I have one more very important item. As a village, we participate in consolidated purchasing where we can. And really what that means is we participate in, for instance, buying fire hoses for our fire department. So we take and we participate with other fire departments to buy things. So when we do that, our money goes further, we can buy more things. We have an opportunity right now to participate in a consolidated bid for road work. Never been done before. And yes, please, Director Giskelson, what we want to do, and I need some guidance, Board, and I don't really need it right this minute, but if you would email me tomorrow and let me know your thoughts, but we would like to, as a staff, participate in consolidating joint bidding. It's a $7 million joint bid with other communities, and what we would like to do is participate for next year's. It's this budget coming up for crack sealing, pavement patching, resurfacing. And I saw you, I can't see it.
No, go for it. Put the list right here.
I read it.
It's crack sealing for $50,000, resurfacing for $200,000, pavement patching for $150,000, concrete flat work sidewalks $50,000. That would be the 50-50 program, and that's in the budget again for next year. Leak detection for $15,000, hauling, spoils, and stone delivery $60,000, and tree removal for $60,000. So by doing this joint bidding with other municipalities, and the joint bid is $7 million, it's huge. This will make our project's money go further because hopefully they'll get one contractor that has the ability, the capacity to do all that and make our money go further. So I'm looking for some guidance. Doesn't have to be tonight, but we need to let them know by Friday that we want to participate. And this is actually for next year's budget starting May 1st, 2014. That's where the funds are.
Yeah, I want to share it, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll
You
pass
probably
it
wanna
down
see
then,
this.
yes. There's a list there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, well, that's quite an opportunity. Really quick, how did this come about?
That's a good question,
Maybe
Your
it's
Honor.
not a quick question.
Director Miskellis and I have talked about this. Both of us never really understood why we couldn't go together with municipalities and do pavement or patching. I mean, when you patch a roadway, you know, you may have different specs, but if we get together, you can work through those specs and make your money go further because, you know, the more quantities you can get together, it's economies of scale. So that's how it came about. I think it was brought up at some public works meeting. Sure, that's, Your Honor, I think Director Giskelson loves the limelight.
Especially tonight. No. Yes, what's up?
Actually, there was a group of communities on the North Shore spearheaded by the Village of Glenview. They call themselves MPI, the Municipal Purchasing Initiative. They started this, I think, about 5 years ago. So they've developed dozens of specs and have jointly let several projects, multiple projects over the last 5 years. So a group of public works directors in DuPage approached them several months ago about doing the same thing here. So they've been kind of guiding us through the process. Village of Lombard took the initial lead on this and kind of brought everybody together, and now we've divided up 12 different contracts for different municipalities to take the lead, and we're going to be joint bidding these contracts. Any community in DuPage, and I suppose if anybody outside of DuPage wants to be part of this, they can. But we're going to try it this year to see how it works. But this Glenview group has already, basically paved the way, no pun intended, for this type of work.
Bada bing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that additional information as well. All right. Okay, item number 13 on the formal is adjournment.
Motion
Do I
adjourned.
have a motion? Trustee Wolfus, do I have a second?
President, I'll second the motion.
Trustee Wagner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Our next board meeting will be Monday, March 10th, 2014, here, 7:30, Village Hall. Thanks, Philip Park.
Try the lights on.
Oh, please.